Oh, yeah, that's good. All right, so check one, check two. Carlisle, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you sound better, man. I can hear your whole tonal quality of your voice, man. It's, T-Pain can't sue us for you impersonating him anymore. So I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
That's cool. So where we had left off was just, and welcome Todd, Captain Meggett, to the call. We are going to try to pull off something here in the next few minutes. We had one last origin story to get. Carlisle is going to share a little bit about, what got him to Howard, and maybe what allowed him to major in electrical engineering, right? That's where you study,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Electrical.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to hear a little bit about that, and then time permitting, we may start just a teaser of some of the connection points to us, just so we can make sure we can maybe know what homework we have to try to jog our memories in these reminiscent sessions. Okay. So with that, Carlisle, would love to hear your story, man. What kind of brought you, where you from, and what brought you to Howard, man?
I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, partially raised.
We had to keep recording this just because. This is the video part of the.
So
And this-
it's the freeze frame. Like, has there ever been a freeze frame where it looks like you intended to have your face frozen for a little while? No. Carla, can you
Oh, he's gone.
He started talking and the NSA just shut it all down.
Hey, record number.
They hit the switch and it was like, oh hell no.
Right. Last time we got loose lips, we learned about General Schwarzkopf and all kind of stuff. Now he's like, you're not going to give any more secrets.
Oh my God.
What was that? What was that movie?
Man.
What was that movie? Robert Redford and them guys, Sidney Poitier. Too many secrets.
Yeah.
Right on brand.
Oh man.
As soon as we try to record. Yeah.
This is the best, man.
He barely got his name out. NSA was like, "Go hit the switch." Kill.
We told you what would happen if you said your name. How is he back on without me?
Oh my gosh.
So he joined again. This is his device, but he's joining without. There it is. I was about to say, how did he join without asking to get in?
He realized he got to use alternative equipment.
So next thing you're gonna see him running down the street. He's gonna be running down the street.
He just flew to Russia.
Oh my gosh. This is good for the soul, man. I haven't had this kind of laugh in a minute, bro.
No.
Not since I almost got kicked out of Claw's lady friend's house, man. This is great.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, this guy. All right.
Man, the timing of that was just precious.
Yeah, we're gonna let it roll for a little bit here. This is
Carlisle, are you back?
Yeah, Carlisle.
I have no idea what's going on.
We figured it out.
We figured it out. We got 3 letters for you. NSA.
NSA. Yeah.
You got to
How
sign
funny.
those releases. You got to sign those releases for the Freedom of Information Act, bro. We can't get anything done until you sign the papers, bro.
I don't understand why it don't work on my phone though.
Well, is that Xfinity as well, or what do you use for your phone coverage?
AT&T.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it should all work, man. I think it's the only thing that makes sense is the NSA right now, because they seem to be tapping everybody's phones right now. So we hear you better. We hear you better now.
I'm gonna keep my camera off if that's okay, because maybe that's I don't know.
It could be. We got some good pictures of your face frozen, so we can tell that you really meant to be on the call. So, but yeah, go ahead and we still got the recording going, so the audio is going as well. So if you want to kind of pick up you're from Brooklyn, and then you cut out after that.
Brooklyn, New York.
So where Brooklyn at? is what they say in the rap song, right? Where Brooklyn at?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So born in Brooklyn, New York, partially raised in the Caribbean and St. Kitts, West Indies.
Mm.
I am, so I guess you could say I'm Brooklyn born, Brooklyn raised, but I have a lot of Caribbean lineage because of spending most of my elementary school years up until junior high school in Caribbean and St. Kitts, and then coming back to the States, picking up from late junior high school, went to Brooklyn Tech, which is a specialized high school in New York that specialized at that time in engineering and civil engineering, aerospace engineering, and electrical engineering. I
Mm.
was an aerospace major, and the tie into Howard University was as I applied to colleges, Howard wasn't necessarily on my list. Although I had an older brother, stepbrother, who went here or went to Howard. I didn't know much about it outside of coming to visit him every once in a while. And then my guidance counselor said, "Why don't you apply?" I said, "Okay, I will." And the funny thing was my senior class trip for the aerospace engineering division was the Aerospace Museum here in DC. And so I went ahead and applied to Howard knowing that that was going to happen. I didn't expect it, but I got accepted to MIT, Temple, and Stanford. And so I really only applied to MIT for my mother because I hated Boston. There's nothing about Boston or Massachusetts I even liked, but I did it for my mother's sake because, you know, it was like, it's a prestige school. Please apply to that. I didn't want to apply to Yale or Brown or any one of those things. I knew I wouldn't fit in there, but I just did it just to be doing it. So the certificate of acceptance from MIT, I buried with my mother because it was left with her to begin with. I didn't care about it. But I came to Howard for a senior class trip at the Aerospace Museum. I did not go to the Aerospace Museum. I came to Howard's campus on that day and met the student recruitment director was Linda Fields. And she took me on the yard. It was warm. It was, I think that was late May or it was early May because they was getting ready to do graduation in 2 weeks and they started setting up the yard. So it was a phenomenal sight for me to see that many, you know, people of color kind of just hanging on the yard, watching them put things together for graduation and knowing that they were talking about another 2,000 people were going to be graduating in another week or two on that yard. And so for me, it was like, wow, it was an amazing experience to see that many engineering school, business school, and I was just blown by the fact that we had an institution like this. Because at the time that I came to visit my brother, it was only to watch the football games and not really get a taste of what was really going on academically. And so when I got back to school after the trip, I told my guidance counselor that Howard was number one on my list. Once I heard back from them, of course, I didn't hear back from them until late August that I got accepted. So I had to hold off from going to Temple just so that I make sure I can get into Howard. So my first experience at Howard was like many, with a delayed acceptance and not knowing where my housing was going to be. But I spoke to the track coach and told him that I was interested in coming down to run track for the team. He heard about me or knew about me from my track accolades with the Kenyan Runners, which is a team out of Brooklyn, New York. That was an age team, and then my track team for Brooklyn Tech was ranked in the 4x1 in the country, and so I ran the 4x1. I was a turn guy, and so that he offered me a scholarship for coming to Howard in track. But I also found out that week from financial aid that I had a package for academics. So I did not accept the track scholarship, but accepted the academic scholarship and went ahead and got into the School of Engineering. My first day of classes, they all talked about look to your right, look to your left, you know, and was that intro to engineering. They said, these people will not be with you 4 years from now when you get ready to graduate. Most of them will either change majors or fail out of school altogether. And that in and of itself, I said to myself, well, the guy to my right and the guy to my left are looking at me thinking I'm gonna fail out, but I'm not. I'm gonna make it through, and I'm a smile at them on the other side of the stage when I get done with it. So it was a motivating factor to me to be able to say I'm going to the School of Engineering and I'm going to get out of the School of Engineering. So that was my road really to get into Howard, was taking that trip for my senior class trip here to DC at the Aerospace Museum, seeing Howard at its finest when it's warm and getting ready for graduation. It was just a phenomenal experience for me, and I never looked back and never had any regrets since.
Wow. So wait a minute. You ran track, bro?
Yeah, I ran track, swam, and played football for Howard.
So I must have met you after you retired from all that. Is that right?
Yes.
That 4x1, you said?
Yeah. He's a turn guy.
I ran a 4x1 in high school, and I guess what they call professional track clubs in New York that competed against other people, going to pen relays and things like that. But when I got to Howard, I ran a 200 and a long jump.
Yeah, this is good. See, this is why we do this, because if you had put this on like a quiz, I'd have missed it for real. For real. This is awesome, man. So so you said you were down for aerospace, but what got you into electrical engineering?
Well, aerospace initially for me was just about learning. I always had a fascination with planes, as it was. My mother used to send me every summer as a child. She sent me away, and I would get, those little wings when you travel. That's back in the day when they used to allow you to travel by yourself as a child. And the stewardesses would take you on and have you sit up in first class and all that good stuff. So I always had a fascination of how a plane worked. And so getting into aerospace engineering allowed me to learn about the engine functionality, of course, the aerodynamics of a plane and those kind of things. But what struck me about even learning in aerospace engineering at that high school age was the electronics involved with running that airplane. I was like, okay, it does all these fascinating things, but where does it get its power from, and how does it maintain its power while it's in flight? And so that's when I got into learning about, well, there's an electrical side to this whole airplane system. And so for me, when I got to Howard, I was like, well, they don't offer aerospace engineering. I don't want to do civil because I don't care about no dirt. And mechanical, I knew nothing about other than maybe building robots. So electrical just seemed like the path for me to go because I had an interest in, electrical systems and just what powered devices and things of that nature, and how I could get into so many other avenues by being an electrical engineer, because it could lead you to computers, it could lead you to hardware, software, it could lead you to design and other things like that. So that was my desire, to be as flexible and have as many opportunities as possible. So electrical engineering was the path that I decided to take.
Yeah, let's dig it, man. And you said you were worried about the electronics when you were a little boy sitting in first class flying planes by yourself. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I always wondered, like, okay, this plane is flying, but what's powering it? What's keeping it up in the air? Because
did you ask these questions out loud, or did you sit there and just think about them?
No, I asked out loud. I asked the co-pilot. The pilot would come out and give you airmen, wings and stuff like that. So I asked the pilot, and he was like, "Oh, they brought me into the cockpit a couple times, and they would show me all these controls and levels, and they say we power up the engine, and you have gasoline, and then these electrical systems maintain everything." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Dig that. Wow. Any questions for Carlisle? I'm fascinated. Oh, go ahead. What you say?
No, I was just gonna say that's my specialty, because that's I teach that, in terms of how does that 18-ton piece of hunk of metal stay up in the air, So I during for my ROTC classes, part of our curriculum is teaching the science of flight. So yeah, awesome, there you go. You got four main forces, thrust, drag, weight, and of course lift.
Yeah, man, that's dope.
But yeah,
I don't know. See, Todd, I didn't know you taught that, man. I knew you did a lot with I guess getting people prepared for the life of the military, but I didn't realize the part of the curriculum was teaching them the science part too. That's dope.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, we, I like to call ROTC like the buffet of high school classes, because we teach a little bit of science, we do a little bit of financial literacy, We do, life skills, like how to write a resume, how to do an interview, you name it, man, and obviously, leadership, we certainly hammer that home and whatnot. And yeah, we do a little something, obviously gym and physical fitness, nutrition, medical side of things. I mean, you name it. We do a little bit of everything. Space, astrology, astronomy.
Gotcha. That's dope. So Carlisle, man, I guess from because one of the commonalities that you stated was, kind of what kind of drew you to Howard after you kind of made that trip to campus, right? And it's kind of what sparked it. I guess during your consideration for school, were you only interested in engineering at that point, or aerospace engineering, or were there other things you were thinking about studying?
I was really only interested in engineering. As I've shared with you guys in the past, I came, one of my hobbies and things that I did on the side was music. And so being involved with the music business was always cool, but I didn't really want to get involved with music in college. I was like, I already knew what all that was about. I wanted to challenge myself, and I've always been, how can I say, inclined for a technical challenge, more so than just, okay, I can do business or do fashion or even do music, like say going into fine arts and do music production or going to school of communications.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want that because that was just too easy. I could do that with my eyes closed. And so it was always about going to engineering. Like I said, applying to MIT was for my mother. And Stanford recruited me because of track, but also they had a very good engineering program. Temple was a desired place for me because it wasn't too far from New York, but it got me out of New York, and they had a pretty strong engineering program at that time as well.
Right.
And so once I discovered in full capacity what a historically Black college and university was, and that it had that engineering that I desired, it was a no-brainer from that point.
Dig that, man. Yeah, it's good to hear that. I'm always fascinated about, what people wanted to study and potentially do, especially since Howard had so much to offer. And I guess you going after engineering does explain why you had to break it off with MC Light back in the day. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I had to. Well, I don't know if I told this story, but there was an opportunity for me not to go to college and to move down to Hampton, Virginia, and stay with Teddy Riley, who was opening up his studio.
Yeah.
Teddy wanted me to run his studio while he was running around with what was that? Blackstreet? Was it Blackstreet?
Blackstreet. Yeah, Guy first, and then Blackstreet would open that.
Yeah, well, Guy was somebody I worked with anyway, but that's how I met Teddy, was working with Guy. But when he made the paradigm shift to really get into the music side of things in terms of music production and have his own studios, which is how Missy Elliott got her idea for doing her own studios, it was from Teddy Riley. Teddy Riley opened up his own studios right down in Hampton, right off the water, had a helipad and the whole nine. And he was like, I really need a couple of guys here that can run the show for me. And he was teaching me a lot of the music side of production. And he said, you'll be one of the guys to run the show. And I was like, well, I really want to go to college. He was like, well, he mentioned something about Hampton. I was like, I don't know nothing about them. I ain't trying to go to school in Virginia. And I said, it's kind of slow down here. I said, I need to go somewhere else. But he said, if I went to another school, that I wouldn't be able to run the studio for him. Wow. So the decision was to go to Howard and not, stay into the music side of things. And so, yeah, I had to separate from the MC Lights and the Faith Evans and all those folks from the music side of things, because I wanted to get into engineering and do my own thing.
Take that. And so, because we're gonna switch gears a little bit since everybody's been hanging out, because I'm fascinated now because, to know that we're 1 degree separated from MC Light and Faith Evans and Teddy Riley. I realize now I probably should have asked for tickets a lot sooner, Carlisle, because you could have got me in shows that I only dreamed about getting in with the budget I had for school. So I probably should have asked questions earlier. But I guess the part now, and I know this is more of a teaser since 6 of the 7 are on the call. I would like to see if there's a way we could start to piece together that the question of how do we all meet? And maybe, what was the scenario? What was it? So we can at least start to piece that part of
I see what you did there.
you like that?
What was the scenario? I like
Yeah.
that.
You like that?
Yeah.
I had to bring it together, brother.
If I since I kind of, you started with me relative to my journey into Howard, if I can indulge you guys and talk about how I met all of you, because it was very interesting. What the most interesting part about it all is that I met Anthony last out of
Really?
everyone. Yeah.
Now, Carla, we need you to speak clearly because right now your internet is working or whatever you're doing. So if you go first and we lose you, then we'll know we got your story. So,
Okay.
as long as you got the cricket service there, we don't want you to chirp too much and disappear.
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead. Man.
So for me, the foray into meeting, well, one of the first persons I met was Byron, and then probably Chip right after that. I had joined Nesby early in the game and ran into a few folks who were at Nesby. I also became a member of the Engineering Student Council and started, one of the things I started Engineering Student Council was a ski trip. And then, other people ran for offices within Engineering Student Council, and Byron ran for an office also. And so he and I started working together in Engineering Student Council. And then one of the ideas I had was a ski trip. So he helped me work with that ski trip. And then, of course, we kind of became roommates at Motorola, and it grew from there. And then Chip, I met Chip from my foray into Black Neoforce, but even before that, I was still
So
loving.
hold on, Carla, hold on. Because I need some context here. So about what year was this you met Byron? Was that 1989?
What's that? 88. It should have been 88 or 89. Byron would have to confirm that for me, but it probably was 88.
Met in 88. We interned together. We roomed together at Ford first, right? With Rafi and
right. But I met you through Nesby first. That's how I knew you.
Yeah, we met through Nesby first. Yeah, and Engineering Student Council. Yeah.
Got it. So that was 88 or so. Is that what we're thinking?
Yes, sir.
88-ish.
Okay. Yeah, just trying to get some timing in there because that's what, my mind is such a poor chronometer at times. I need to remember what dates and stuff. So we piece it together. Okay. So then you said, so you met Byron through Nesby and Engineering Student Council.
Right.
And then you were going to go to Chip.
I met Chip at a house party, like music house party. I can't remember where it was exactly. It wasn't in somebody's home, but it was one of these. It wasn't a Black Cat. It wasn't a Black Hole. It was one of them clubs that was playing house music on a Friday or a Saturday. And I met Chip at a party that was playing house. I remember his face from engineering school, and I was shocked. I was like, "Yo, there's somebody from engineering school that's hanging out here in this house party," and found out he was from Chicago and all that kind of stuff. So we kind of linked up in talking about being from two major cities and who had the control of the house music. That was our first discussion, where house music really came from and who really was pumping it strongest. And later that kind of grew into, once Black Neoforce was founded, he was one of the first members that came into Black Neoforce. Again, somebody else who came from the engineering school that I was in, you know what I'm saying? So I took affinity to Chip because we had so many things, so many boxes that we checked that was together. But more importantly, he was one of the few people that came from the engineering school that had the same ideology that I had. So that's how Chip and I met. And actually, Chip introduced me to Todd. And so
I have no record.
At the same house party? Was it at the same house party?
It was an engineering school. It was in the library of the School of Engineering.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to Todd. Todd at that time I think he had on his uniform for ROTC or something like that. And I was fascinated that a Black man wanted to be in the military. But that's how I got. And I honestly, in terms of, I don't know what year that was. That had to be 89, close to pushing 90.
Sure.
But I know myself in terms of Kevin and yourself, Brian. I met you guys later on when you guys were doing things in Nesby as you matriculated along Nesby up into to becoming the executive director. I forgot if I say that right. I'm not saying it right. But when you became you started as a regional person, then you moved up to
Yeah.
being the chairperson of all of NSBE. And by that time, I was already working in NSBE headquarters. And so I met you through Charles and all those other meetings that we were having. I think it was wasn't Kevin first as being.
So Kevin was the chair. I was Region 2 chair at some point. We had a bunch of Howard folks on the board at one time. People thought we just held national meetings in the library at Howard because we had all voting members for the board that used to get together at B Hall. Remember, we all sat together. It's like, this is how it's gonna go.
Right.
Show the meetings and the agenda had been set. It's like all them Howard cats are running everything. But so we met.
Holly was on it too, right?
Yeah, Holly Harrington, and Renetta was on there for
Renetta.
well. So yeah, we had a bunch of Howard folks on there. But so I met you through NSBE headquarters then.
Right,
Carl.
but you were on Region 2 board.
I was on the
when I
board.
met you. Right.
Yeah, because a bunch of us on the board together, and then we moved to the national board. So that had been junior year then. So okay, so that's 90, 91. Okay, time wise, that makes sense. Okay.
And then I think Kevin, like you said, Kevin was chair first, so I ran into Kevin a lot more because he had a lot of things to do at the national headquarters. And then because I was working in corporate affairs, Region 2 at that time when you came along, Region 2 was financially more solvent and had more things going on with corporate affairs and corporate people than any other regions. And so because of that, they made sure, and plus I came from Howard, they were like, yeah, you work with the folks from Region 2 because they're the ones that got, making things happen and talking about Motorola, Ford, and all the different companies. Yeah. You guys have laid you laid the blueprint for how other regions were supposed to interact with the companies, with the board of corporate affiliates at the time, so to speak. That was before the board of corporate affiliates really got started. Yeah, your guys in Region 2 really laid the blueprint for how we were going to create this board of corporate affiliates.
Wow, that timing that matches up. I know that was when I got to host a leadership meeting in Langley at CIA headquarters because CIA wanted to be a board of corporate affiliate member, and people were like, I don't know about the CIA stuff. I said, well, they got snacks. They got snacks, so we should probably roll through.
There was a few of us on corporate that was like, nah, we're not trying to roll with that. But another person who was instrumental in us getting together was Gabby Urquhart from Kodak. She loved us to death. She loved you. She loved Kevin and anybody coming out of Howard. Byron. She was like, anything that was going on with NSBE and Howard folks, she would always make sure we got together at the social functions for Kodak. Came to all the stuff that we was doing. And her company, Kodak, was one of the first to jump on board for the board of corporate affiliates. Okay,
that actually ties back, man. I've been sitting there kicking myself, saying, I don't know when I started hanging out with Carlisle for real. So this is helpful. So then Ant. So when did you meet Ant?
Now, Anthony, I met through Lakita. Because I think they might have been dating at the time or something, but she introduced him as well. I said, that's your boo. She's like, yeah. And so, but I knew Lakita was.
Lakita was like, yeah, that's right.
I forgot what she was in. She was in a project group with was it Kevin and Todd or was it?
Yeah, Todd. Yeah, Todd and Kevin.
Todd and Kevin, because I remember them meeting a couple times for like group projects, and I was like, you always hanging out with the boys. Do you have a boyfriend? And she was like, yeah, I got a boo. And I was like, oh, you got to introduce me to this boo because I don't believe you. It's like, how you got a man and you always over here with them? But it turns out that he was in engineering too, so it made it a lot easier. So that's how the four-way for me meeting Anthony was through Lakita.
Wow.
Wow. So that was like 91. It's like in my head, it seems like we knew each other earlier. My mouth is just wide open. So.
I'll tell you, but for me, I'm trying to piece it together now because of the group here. I want to say I met Ant first because I met him my freshman year, which was 88. And I remember that Ant because I think we both got pushed into running for a NSBE office together. I think I ran against you or something. That was the first time I met you. And then we wound up hanging out after that because it wasn't that many dudes that running for stuff. So I remember catching up with you and starting to hang out a little bit more. Plus I knew Biz and some other folks that you knew from the GOD days. So that kind of solidified it for me. Chip, I want to say,
No clue.
was it, because you weren't my campus pal. I know that. You only talked to the Fine Honeys for campus pal. So you,
Pretty much.
but I want to say, I know I recognize you from campus pals, but in terms of engineering, I can't place it, honestly. And quite frankly, it was the trip to Orlando that I remember the most, where whatever we were before that, we became real tight after Orlando. So I mean, that was Todd, that was you. We were all together in Orlando, right? Were we all in Orlando? So that's where, I mean, my memory of us coming together is that it was magical. That Orlando trip was magical for me. That's when I realized we may have stepped into some stuff with this Nesby stuff, but I remember we hung out tough that week, and that was 90, I guess, 1990, I guess, something like that. But that's when it all coming together.
What makes it, I guess, murky is because it's like I feel like at Orlando we were already like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I can't.
So that's why I need these reminiscing sessions. I know that my memory gets more solid as we started hanging out. So I don't know if we just got thrust together. Anybody else got anything?
All I know is in Orlando, I was hearing about all the fun after the fact because I was chasing other things during Orlando. That's another story.
We're recording. It can't be.
Yeah. We'll have to redact. We'll have to redact this part of the video. So
I was like, wait, y'all hung out in the hot tub?
So some things remain on recording.
Nightly, B Hall. Every night ended in the hot tub. Just saying.
So what year was Orlando?
So that was
I think it was 90.
Spring 90. Spring
I think it was 90.
That would have been my sophomore year, second semester sophomore year.
So that was 90.
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like we were, you know, maybe not super close, but I don't feel like Orlando was, you know, like I think we were kind of close before, but like I said, it's super murky to me how.
Well, yeah, because I was going to ask, when did we move into the house?
So that would have been,
was that 91?
91, because it was like 91 to 92 that was my first year in the house anyway. That was Byron's like 5th year in the house. He started living there in 1987 or something like that.
1978.
1978 plus or minus. He was there when they named it LaDroit Park. So no, it was 91. It was my senior year. I remember that because I was in Sutton for sophomore and junior year. I was in Sutton. So that would have been my senior year, 91.
Yeah, because I was in Meridian and Chip was in Meridian.
It was in Meridian, right?
Yeah, we were in Meridian, I know, for at least, I think, a couple years, because I stayed off campus my first semester and a half. I stayed off campus, way off campus, way up Georgia Avenue, where the old Walter Reed Hospital was. A friend of the family. I used to catch the bus. I was like, my first semester, I was like totally disconnected with campus life because, I was just staying so far away and, it was just, I wasn't really connected. But
that's real. So
yeah.
what else do you all remember? Because like I said, Orlando was what came back to me because I knew at that point, at least collectively, I started seeing you guys as more than just folks that went to a conference with me. There were a lot more shared experiences that I can recall and some starting points from that point. Because
let me ask you, when was Los Angeles?
90, spring 91.
Okay. Well, what was before Orlando? I don't even. Yeah.
That was Ohio. I know I didn't go. That was like Cincinnati or Cleveland or somewhere. I didn't go. That was my first conference was Orlando.
Yeah, me too. I think Orlando was, the jump start for me.
So like I said, I would love to know if it was something that happened before that. I know we kind of met, but it was something about us getting room together. I think it was, whoever was running stuff at that time probably thought they were being funny putting us all together. And next thing you know, I mean, that's kind of how it sparked at least part of what was going on.
All right, so let me ask this then. So when was Kevin the chairman?
91, 92. So senior year, he was the chairman.
All
And
right.
the year before that, 90, 91, he was Region 2 chair.
Okay.
And that's when
Yeah.
I ran for office somewhere. I think 90, I may have run for office, and because I started getting involved at the regional level and national level at that point. But as far as us all hanging out, that's my first memory of us starting to hang out. And then subsequently there were the road trips. And I know that Ant was he was the guy who would catch me on Friday afternoon, and he'd be like, man, ain't shit going on here. Why don't we roll to like somewhere? And then we just jump in the car and roll. I think all junior year, man, we had road trip itis, because every time we looked up, it was like a road trip somewhere, bro. And I was like, yo, this is dope, because we would just roll out with no plan of where we're going to stay, where we're going to sleep. just roll, right?
Yeah. So I wonder if
Hey,
80.
what I was gonna say, when was the ski trip? So I know we did at least, was the ski trips before Orlando or after Orlando?
It had to be after, right?
I was gonna say after,
Yeah.
but
Because that was man, it was either 91, 92. I know it was like in that space. When were y'all, Carla, when were y'all running engineering student council? That was when you all were, as Kev told us, y'all were pimping us so y'all could get y'all trips paid for free.
I had to lean on Byron for that one because I don't remember the years, but the ski trip was a big push for us and very, very successful.
Well, let me ask you this: did you do more than one ski trip, or was it one?
No, we did most two.
Yeah,
We did at least two while we were in office, and I did two others after that.
All right, because I remember going to one, and that was when you and I skied together and realized we were probably
Over our heads.
over our head.
We're literally over our skis.
Over our skis.
That's a
I can't
literal
remember.
translation.
I'm just saying that was I know that was after Orlando, but it was like before graduation. So it's got to be either junior or senior. I can't remember. That's what's got my head kind of like, I can't put the timeline together.
Yeah. So
I thought we did a couple of regional NSBE trips before we went to Orlando is what I was thinking, but
It could have
Yeah,
been. Could have
we did
been.
some regionals because I remember Ant, I think you rode with me one time because I had this small little Toyota Corolla, not the blue one, but I had another one.
Mm.
And I think you were riding in the back seat and you were not comfortable.
that could have been true. But where did we go to Penn State? Where did we go?
Oh,
Yeah, it was in Pennsylvania. Yeah, we went to Pennsylvania somewhere. Yeah.
when was that?
Was that before Orlando or after Orlando?
I don't remember.
So wait a minute. So you know what happened? It was our sophomore year. It was 90, spring 90. Before Orlando trip, you know what we did? We hosted a regional conference. So we hosted one at Howard. Where the story is now, that was where the whole Howard Inn was, and that's where we hosted it. So we had everybody from the region show up. And that was I remember that weekend because that was the weekend that Buster Douglas knocked out Mike Tyson.
yeah, that's right.
February of 1990.
Yeah, we were in rooms. Yeah, we had rooms in the Howard Hotel. Yeah.
So you're absolutely right, Chip. We all were together before Orlando, but I think that may have been where something must have happened during that time frame where we all started connecting and clicking on stuff, because we were excited about going to the national conference after hosting. Like that was, we were getting the, because everybody's like, yo, Howard's dope, blah blah blah. We're like, yeah, we know, but it was one of those things where we definitely we hosted a conference as opposed to going to one that spring. And I know getting ready for it probably forced some of us to work a little bit together because we had to all play a part in that. I know that's where I got to know at least Holly very well, because she was running around getting me to learn how to talk to corporate folks even back
Mhm.
then. So, but yeah, that's what. So before Orlando, we hosted a NSBE convention or conference at Howard. In the
So,
Howard Inn. It was pretty memorable because I remember we had a fire drill or something. We were all standing outside at some point at 2 or 3 in the morning, which is crazy.
Well, I remember your van, Brian. Was that whose van was that? It was a burgundy kind of van we all used to always get in and ride around in.
Yeah, it was
That's me.
Brian's.
That was mine.
That was
That
Brian.
was mine.
Yeah.
That was me. And I got
We had
that
a name
van.
for it. Didn't we have a name for it? It was.
We did.
What was the name? What we called that thing?
Hey, do we need to
I can't
redact
remember.
this? Do we need to redact this?
I think it was the
The
love
boom
bus.
boom room.
Is a rose by any other name still a rose?
Yeah, it was a name for that vehicle, but
So
I can't
here's-
remember.
So from a vehicle perspective, I didn't have a car at Howard until at least junior year. Like that's when I didn't have one freshman and sophomore year. So like I said, most of my activity was limited to the G2, the P2, the Metro. That's how I got around most of the time. But I do remember, so Chip, I do remember there was probably an opportunity for us to do something, at least getting to know who we were, because we were all doing at least some of the NSBE stuff, because everybody had to pitch in at some point doing something. But my memory's foggy because I just remember we hosted a convention, because my memories of you guys start to form just after that, which is, somehow we were smart enough to say, let's room together. Right.
Yeah.
That was the crazy part.
So that was before. So that was before Orlando.
Yeah. So the conference right before Orlando, because remember, it used to be 2 conferences. It'd be a fall conference. The fall conference was in at Drexel. It was in Philadelphia. Yep. So the fall conference, so that fall of '89, we were at Drexel, because I remember meeting all the folks from Drexel at that point.
I think I missed.
And that's what I say. It was in the city. It was only 2 hours away. So it was like a nice ride up there, but it was like first time really leaving DC kind of deal, hanging out. I just remember
Wasn't
the
there
music.
one in Carnegie Mellon?
Carnegie Mellon. No, that was so that was later. So that was
Okay.
later. So Philadelphia was like the fall of '89. Howard hosted in spring '90, and then we had the convention in Orlando, and so that was the NSBE kind of connection, at least in terms of that. So anybody who rode up to Philly, I know that was my first time really hanging out, and so that was cool to understand kind of what that was all about, because that's when I was like, oh wow, there's a lot of Black engineers. It's crazy. I remember seeing a couple of my homeboys that went to school at UPenn and some other places when we went, but I don't know if I don't know, from that point to Howard hosting to Orlando, that was a pretty transformative year of meeting and connecting with folks, both on campus and across some of the region or the nation at that point, right?
So the national convention was in the summer?
It was in the spring. So we had a conference in the fall of, so February we did Howard, March. So March of 1990, we were in Orlando. We took a bus down there. I remember that. It was a bus trip. I think I talked about it maybe a couple of sessions ago. That's when Scotty Beats, RIP, rode down with old girl Melanie Scott, and couldn't wait to get up out the car.
Right.
Like, hey, she talks a lot, but it was a bus ride down. I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was when I know I can't remember everybody's name right now, but it was enough situations where we would have been all around, at least the trips of travel. I remember that would have been opportunities to hang out a little bit too. So that's the frame I'm using. I just know I hadn't mentioned the Howard conference until Chip was like, didn't we know something before that?
So the Howard conference, the regional Howard conference, that would have been like what, like in the January?
It was February. It was like the first part of February, because it was the same weekend.
Okay.
It was the same weekend of that Buster Douglas upset on Mike Tyson. I promise
Right.
you.
Yeah.
It was like something happened that weekend to say, oh, by the way, we had this conference and Mike Tyson got knocked out. Right. It was crazy.
No, I remember what, like us gathering around the TV in one of the rooms.
Watching it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, what just happened?
The fixes.
Yeah,
So,
I remember that.
But there's and I guess I could go back and try to figure out because there were, I think, once we got involved that way, it must have been junior year going up to, it wasn't Penn State, but it was like Lafayette and Lehigh hosted. So we were in the middle of some ski lodge valet spot. Remember, it was like a ski. We all stayed in like a little. We stayed in a hotel, but there was like these, like little, what do you call them, chalets or whatever. Like it was like a ski spot, and I remember it because that was when Todd. That was when. Do you remember the phrase "butt naked clothes in the sink"? Do you remember that?
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
That's
It was-
that's when that happened. That's when that
Oh.
phrase came to life because there was like a pajama party, 2 levels, and and I remember because I think Ami was DJing the party or whatever, so he rolled up and was doing all this stuff. So I remember those, like I remember that phrase coming out pretty
yeah.
loud and clear. We'll keep it that way so we don't have to redact the rest of that statement. But,
And once again, I missed that. I know why, so never mind.
I'm just saying, But yeah, like I said, I know the conferences are funny. What I remember about the conferences, just so you guys know that I was paying attention, because this is before the internet, so we didn't get a chance to record and look at memes. But what always would make me and Kev laugh is we'd be sitting up on the dais, because we're doing something, and all we can see is Chip and Ant. I think Utah, all of y'all were in the back looking like y'all were about to go have some fun, and we knew we couldn't go. And y'all be sitting there like, see you when I see you. I was like, there they go again. We're like, can we adjourn this thing? They're like, no, you guys keep going. We'll let you all know how it goes. So they would always get the party going. I just said, yeah, that's your fellas for you. That's your boys for you. They're like, yo, y'all work hard, man. Y'all doing a good job.
Oh man, you gotta take one for the team sometimes.
Yeah. Well, 1 or 2 or 10. I don't know. I feel bad for B Hall because he'd be like, what happened? What just happened? Oh my God.
Their reason.
19 seems to be. Yeah, I'd love. As we.
Oh yeah.
Well, we got to get Kevin here because he's going to fill in some gaps too. All of us can kind of.
Definitely.
So like I said, we'll pause here because I think this was a little bit of a teaser, because now, just in talking about it, y'all unlock the cheat code, or at least a few things. So now I got to go back in the memory bank and be like, okay, so what happened before here and here? And I think there's some good road trip stories in there somewhere too. Because it seemed like there was, like I said, over the next 2 years of after we hung out in Orlando, I figured we did a lot of stuff on road trips. Skip Murphy in the Morning comes to mind.
Skip Murphy in the Morning, yes sir.
I think Ant opened up the world to spring breaking in Atlanta. So I still laugh about that, Ant, because even now when I go to Atlanta, my navigation takes me to Spelman without even trying. I didn't have to look at the GPS. I said, we're on 20. We just got a couple more exits before we get out and just hang out a little bit. So, but yeah, we'll go through some of that, because I think that's where some of it's starting to combine, because I know there was different parts that if we can order it up, it'll make more sense, especially since we figured out how to get around and laugh a little bit too. So that's cool. I love it.
Hey, Chip, you remember Dr. Broom?
Yeah.
Didn't we see him down there one time?
Where? Orlando?
No, in Atlanta.
Oh.
We were down there, and I think he was enjoying homecoming festivities down there in Clark, Atlanta, Morehouse, Spelman. We were like, what are you doing here?
Broom got out.
Yeah, he did.
Man.
Yes, he did.
Yo, that was my dude though. He was hilarious.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop this recording right now so that way